Need to back up to 1973. I was 18 at the time. My high school sweetheart was 16. But she became pregnant. And we were ushered into something called parenthood, curiously, who said they could solve our problem. I drove my girlfriend to Children's Hospital in San Diego, where she underwent an abortion. On a gurney, she asked to be covered. The nurse told her she should have thought of that before. And after it was over, they told her that it was a boy. And our relationship ended, of course. And for years I carried that, thinking it would go away. But it didn't go away, it got bigger, got heavier. 1992, my life came crumbling down around my ears. I lost everything. Homeless, deep in debt. And all of a sudden, all that didn't matter. I could see the things that I had done. I knew what I had done to my son, and it was too much. I said, Father, homeless, I'm there, it's okay. Destitute, that's good. But Daddy, I got to ask you one thing. And just me and him, I said, Daddy, would you please take this mess that I've made of my life? Within less than a day, I had a job offer. Within a week, I had 3, and I had to choose. And ever since 1992, the Lord has cared for me and grown me and prospered me. I'm married to a wonderful Christian woman with 3 wonderful boys. And in 1994, before we got married, I shared with her all that was in my closet. And she forgave me and helped me begin the process of forgiving myself and knowing that I'm forgiven. And in that process, I named my son Samuel. And Samuel is alive today. He's in heaven. The other day, I even told him I loved him. Well, several months ago, a movement started here in Houston because Parenthood was back. Parenthood is building the largest abortion facility in the Western Hemisphere, right here in my city. Well, that's a coincidence. And I joined those that were praying and those that were protesting, and I put red tape over my mouth and I put red tape over my shofar. That served a purpose. But I began to visit Parenthood. As the people would gather, I would stand and sound the shofar, and they would rejoice. It would lift them up. We would shout victory. We would bring the spiritual walls of this oppressive darkness down. And I began to find a place in this prayer, in this movement. About every other day, I'd make it over to the new building. And I would stand by my car in the street to be legal, and I would blow over the building toward Jerusalem. One morning, something in my gut was telling me to go inside that building and sound the shofar, and I said, certainly not. It's too powerful. And I got there that day, and the feeling was still there. I said, well, instead of standing here by my car, I'll go around the 4 corners of this complex, around this wrought iron fence, and blow over the building. And I blew first the first corner, and the second corner, and the third corner. And to blow the 4th corner, I had to go around into an abandoned parking lot outside the fence. And as I was blowing, a construction superintendent came out and hollered at me, "It's private property. You're going to get arrested." And right then I knew I'm going in the building. And I walked around to the entrance gates, talked to some ladies there that were praying. They begged me not to go. They told me I'd be arrested. That made me feel better. And I said, don't you worry. I'm going in and I'm coming out. As I walked in that gate, the men looked. They'd seen me before, and now they saw me coming in the property. They couldn't believe it. Security guard couldn't believe it. She's hollering at me. I just walked directly to the front doors, the double doors, and I walked in the lobby of that building. I said, gentlemen, don't be alarmed. I'm going to sound this horn. And in the lobby of the largest abortion facility under construction ever, this sound was heard. That's the sound of love. That's the sound of our Daddy God. That's what it sounds like in heaven. And the purpose of that sound is to come down here so that we can know about God's love. God's love was proven finally and forever on a little hill outside Jerusalem where Jesus Christ died on the cross. And God so loved every one of us, whether we're in or out of the abortion business, whether we've had an abortion or not, whether you're a mother or a father or a parent that's been involved, that's been touched. You know the grief, you know the shame, you know the guilt. But you see, that sound represents a love that overcomes, a love that's greater than whatever we could do. And that sound was sounded. And I stopped and I told all the men gathered there, I said, men, I know you're just here earning a living. And I said, you just got to know that your Daddy God in heaven loves you. You are precious, every one of you, to your Daddy God. And then I left. Yes, the state of Texas is prosecuting me, and that's their job. That's their job to keep order. And I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for them keeping order so my family can be safe. I'm thankful for the judge that presides over that court. He's appointed by God. That's a special job he has. It takes a special man to fill that bench. Some other laws had to be violated. Back in the 1800s, we had laws and court rulings that allowed something called slavery. And that was a great evil that was born with this nation. And this nation allowed to exist. And Supreme Court rulings were passed to support it. And the majority was for it. And yet everybody knew, whatever side of the issue that they were on, they knew that they were taking away the lives and liberty of people, of human beings, created and endowed with those rights by their Creator, capital C. That went on until some people violated those laws, until some men in the minority spoke up. One of them won an election, and he led this country in a battle that was necessary, in a battle that was overdue. And those laws were overturned. There was an amendment added to the Constitution that said there will not be slavery in this country. But something continued then, something called discrimination. And it got worse. And laws were passed and court rulings were issued that it was okay to have separate facilities. It was okay to have lunch counters for this group of people and other lunch counters for that group of people. And we lived with that, and the majority approved of it. Until a few people said, why don't we just go over there and sit down at that lunch counter? And they broke some rules, they broke some laws. And they sat down at that lunch counter. And they marched in the streets. And the authorities behind the law, they brought out dogs and water cannons. And they locked people up, fingerprinted them, photographed them. But the truth could not be hidden. The country began to turn. Those laws were overturned. And today we can all sit down at the lunch counter together. The world's not a perfect place. But it just takes somebody to stand up and say, well, that's not true. they have the same rights given by the Creator as anybody else. And so do I. I took those rights away from my son Samuel. So in the year 2010, I had special authority to know the truth, to be emboldened by the truth, and to share the truth. There's an opportunity. I love the state of Texas. I love this city especially. God's coming down on this city. The Spirit of God is coming down on Houston, and Houston will be saved. The evil, the oppression, the darkness is over. It's fleeing. This is the sound of victory. This is the sound of love. And that oppression, and that dark evil cannot stand against the love of heaven.